We live in the age of the expanded universe. Every movie, every TV show, every book seems to be part of something bigger. Marvel has the MCU, Star Wars has its endless canon of shows and spin offs, and DC has, well, whatever DC is currently trying to accomplish. But here's a question I'm posing. Are expanded universes making our stories richer, or are they just exhausting us as viewers? Today, I want to break down why I think expanded universes have started to feel less like fun and a shared experience and more like homework. Welcome back to the Those Who Geek channel, where we love to talk about all things geeky, including this subject. And we're really looking forward to hearing what you have to say about this as well. Now let's get on to the topic of expanded universes. At its core, an expanded universe is simple. You take one story or one narrative and you expand it. There can be comics, tie-in novels, spin-off shows, other films. They just all connect into one larger narrative web. For fans, this whole experience can be really cool and amazing. Instead of just one movie and one character that you really love in one universe, you get an entire world. You're rewarded for noticing things like little details, for keeping track of things, for being in the know as a fan. And if one storyline doesn't pique your interest or one character, then there might be a dozen others that you can keep track of, and it keeps you in the fandom. But there are negatives to the expanded universe. The bigger it is, the harder it is to find enjoyment in it. The more stories that exist, the harder it is to keep them straight. Who's alive? Who's dead? Is this event actually canon? Will they continue this storyline, or will we never see this character again? Star Wars fans know this pain all too well. Entire shelves of expanded universe novels were declared non-canon when Disney bought Lucasfilm. So suddenly years of story just were gone. They didn't matter. There was no point of reading it if it didn't matter to the film franchise. I mean, there are some fans that will still continue to read those things, but again, for a lot of people, they feel, what's the point? And if you want to talk about Marvel and the MCU, even diehard fans admit you need a flowchart to keep track of who's where and when are they even in the universe. You miss one Disney Plus show, and suddenly the next movie feels confusing, and there's a whole cast of characters that you might know next to nothing about. That's why people these days can't connect with MCU characters the way they used to back in the day. And by back in the day, I mean 2012 Avengers or Endgame. Expanded universes promise immersion, but often it can just create more confusion. Do you remember when movies and stories used to end? Like you could walk out of a theater and feel like something was complete. Expanded universes don't like endings. Kind of defeats the purpose. Every film has to set up the next one, and every show has to tease some crossover with another one. Franchises become less about telling the story and more about keeping the bubble alive. And that means watching becomes homework. Instead of fun, you feel left behind if you miss something. Audiences aren't just viewers anymore. We're expected to be archivists of hundreds of terabytes of information. This problem leads to what I would call franchise fatigue. When there are too many entries with too little variety and they're so close together, fans feel burnout. Look at Marvel post Endgame. Before Endgame, you would probably get one or two Marvel movies a year, which to some wasn't enough, but to some of us, it was just enough to keep up with the story. But after Endgame, the output of movies coming from Disney seemed to double, and the excitement almost disappeared for a lot of longtime fans. Star Wars fans saw something very similar after Solo. Too many projects, too little freshness. Suddenly, fans weren't excited anymore, and they were tired of dragging their feet to get to the theaters just to see where their favorite story was going, even though they didn't like where it was going. Expanded universes are supposed to keep us engaged with the story, but instead, they risk making us care less with every new installment that comes out several times a year. And then there just becomes a creativity issue as well. When your story is part of a massive shared universe, you can't take too many risks, especially when there are several different writers and several different directors involved in different stories of the same universe. Everything has to line up with some master plan, or it just doesn't work. This can mean fewer surprises, fewer bold swings, and more formula. And often that formula is repeated. If they fail at keeping with that master plan, it just gets confusing. And when you look at something like Eternals, for instance, can you remember what that movie was about? I guess I do, but not really. I can't remember any of the characters' names for sure. They're barely talked about outside of one film. one or two films that are like kind of mentioned, but not really. And then you compare Eternals to something like WandaVision. Kind of weird, experimental in the franchise, I would say. And everybody was talking about it when it was out. Then you compare it to something like Secret Invasion, which, I mean, it played it safe. And do you remember anything from that show? It was forgotten almost instantly by many fans. Expanded universes trap creators in a cycle of safety. And when stories stop surprising us, we stop caring and stop watching. It doesn't fulfill our need for new things. And let's talk about the fan side of it. Expanded universes don't just exhaust the creators, they tire us out as well, us fans of these franchises. We argue about what counts. We fight over which version is the real version. And then a lot of us gatekeep newcomers who haven't seen anything and don't know anything about it at all because there's so much to know. Instead of keeping people together in the fandom, it often pushes us apart, separates us from this kind of fan to this kind of fan. So then begs the question, are expanded universes doomed as an idea? When it's done right, when stories are spaced out, and when creators do take risks, and when new entries can stand on their own, they can feel magical again. The key is remembering each story should matter on its own and just not as part of the machine of the MCU or the DC universe or the Star Wars franchise. We want to get to know the characters again. We want to care about their story, about the story. We don't want to have to watch something just so we can understand the next installment. Maybe what we need isn't more to add to the universe. Maybe we just need some stories that end. I mean, what's wrong with having an MCU character that comes in for one film? We get a beginning and middle and end, and we can really appreciate that character. Yeah, we might be sad that we might never see that character again because maybe we loved it. Why can't things end anymore? I don't know. Maybe, I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of an expanding universe, but I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that expanded universes are still exciting, or do you find them just as exhausting as me? How do you keep yourself excited about the next installment of your favorite franchise? Let me know. Let me know what you think. And don't forget to catch Eric and Nate every Friday to do a speedrun update, keep you guys updated on all the geeky things happening in the universe right now. Bye bye.